And we are live. All right. So, welcome to what is officially going to be the first episode of the podcast that we haven't named yet, but we're getting there.
We're thinking of calling it Cougar Town.
Yeah. That. All right. We're
Yeah.
off to a great start. So, I guess we can just go ahead and get started with the host introduction, and we'll talk about a little bit about what we want to do with the show. So, I'm talking, so I'll go. So my name's Connor. I'm 18 years old, and I'm interested in all things technology and movies and things of that nature. And that's sort of what we're going to be focusing on, with the podcast in general. Is a lot of nerd culture, a lot of geek stuff, movies, video games, any technology and any relating current event news that goes along with that. So Sean, you want to go ahead and give yourself a little bit of an introduction?
I'm Sean. I'm 47 years old, and since the dawn of time, I have been a repository of arcane social entertainment knowledge. I know nothing that will actually help society, but I will tell you, down in my office is filled with action figures, toys, board games, video games, comic books, collecting cards. I have been a genre of all fans, and though I am slightly behind technologically, I'm all about this stuff, so I can't wait to do this.
Awesome. And then John, if you want to go ahead and give yourself a quick introduction.
Oh yeah, I'm John. I'm 26 years old, and I take in a vast knowledge of video games. I do a lot of studying up on it. There's not a whole lot that goes by without me knowing about it. I read articles. I watch daily news channels. I listen to podcasts when I'm at work. So most of my knowledge comes for video games, and I have a little bit in the movies, not too much. I mean, if it intrigues my attention, then I usually go into it. A lot of Star Wars, especially with Episode 7 coming up, I really follow into that just to see where it's going, make sure J.J. Abrams is doing a good job with it.
Yeah. So I guess, basically that's what our podcast is going to be about, is anything that really kind of, comes along that we find to be at all remotely interesting. So this is our first episode, our pilot, if you will. So we've got a lot of grand plans for the future, but for right now, this is where we're at. So anything you guys want to add?
On with the show.
All right. Yeah. So the first thing we're going to get into here is we want to talk about virtual reality, which is really starting to kind of take the main stage. It's one of those things, especially Sean, when you were a kid, that was like a far-flung, sci-fi notion, some Star Trek stuff going on.
Let me set the stage back when I was a little kid. I mean, the Atari 2600 was the height of video gaming technology, and but as a kid, I actually read better for my age than I actually was. I was very much into popular science and popular mechanics. So popular science, even back then, and this is something that I'll hold against our society, is that even back then they were talking about hover cars and virtual reality and everything. So the ideas have always been there. It's just, how they've come along slowly. And I consider myself kind of lucky to have watched it come along as my years go on.
Yeah, and really coming along is a great way to put it. I have been incredibly impressed with how far we've come virtual reality-wise, to the point where now you can actually buy an Oculus Rift dev kit 1 or 2. Now, there's not a whole lot of software out there for it, but it is possible for you as a consumer to go out and buy one of these and strap it on your head and experience a virtual world. And I know, John, you had some stuff that you wanted to mention about that too, following the Oculus Rift gaming related.
Yeah, to bring in virtual reality, actually, it's not just this brand new concept people thought of. Back in I think it was 1995, the Virtual Boy was one of the very first virtual realities. And I mean, it was a lot of lines and graphs, but to think of where
and red,
very much a lot of red. But if you come now. Project Morpheus and Oculus Rift are actually working on the device to where if you look down, you can actually see your hands, and you would be able to move your hands to whereas you can't do it quite yet, but that's one of the big things they're working on.
Right.
And to be able to see your lower half of your body when you look down inside of the game and be able to move them is just a big leap forward that they're doing with it.
Yeah.
As opposed to Doom in that, or Doom early on, you had the gun in your hands in front of you, but technically it was just a static image that everybody saw. You weren't actually seeing yourself.
Right. Yeah, and that's definitely exciting. I'm not sure if I would be able to handle like Call of Duty in virtual reality. Like I think after about a match or two, I wouldn't have to go to the gym like
Yeah,
ever
that's
again.
another thing. I mean, like, how much does this affect you? Like, if you were playing the virtual reality, some people I've heard from doing it, they get nauseous, they start to feel sick
Yep.
from doing it, and they can't handle it very long.
And that's one
Whereas,
thing that the Oculus Rift team really. Virtual reality is so much more than let's just strap a TV to your face and go.
right,
They've said a lot of things like response times and refresh rates and things that we're talking about milliseconds here. The monitor sitting in front of you probably has anywhere between a 5 millisecond to a 1 millisecond response time. That's how quick can the actual image refresh? How quick can all those lines on your screen be drawn? For any normal use, most monitors are under a millisecond now, but 5 milliseconds is fine, even for a lot of hardcore gamers. I know when I was buying a monitor, it was like you just want to make sure you're under that 5 millisecond mark. And for virtual reality, that's paramount because if you're not hitting, and I don't know what the exact figure is, if you're not hitting that in virtual reality, you're getting people that are getting sick that can only play for a couple minutes at a time. And you've got to make sure that both your eyes are synced up too, because you've got two separate video screens that are going into each eye, at least in the case of the Oculus Rift, if I understand how it works correctly. And
right.
you've got to make sure that those are both moving completely in sync, because even like a half a frame per second difference, and people really start to feel that.
Now, how do you feel about Facebook buying the Oculus Rift for like I think it was $2 billion?
Yeah, and that was and that's almost old news at this point. So I think that this is a good time to talk about it again and kind of reflect. At first it kind of came out and it was like, really, like Facebook buys it, and all of us, sitting there like hardcore gamers are like, damn,
Right.
I wanted, Valve to get it, or somebody, CD Projekt Red to go out and buy this thing, and
Absolutely.
No, Zuckerberg will own you all.
yeah,
Right.
and he really wants to, but they've been making great strides since then, and I think honestly, at the end of the day, Facebook wrote him a check, and if that's going to help us get any closer, I'm all right with my Oculus Rift having a little bit of Facebook branding and Facebook integration.
Now, I feel like more comfortable with the Project Morpheus because it's developed by Sony, who owns the PS4 and develops games. To where when Facebook, it's a social media website, so I'm still a little insecure
Right.
about it.
And
But
I see what you're saying, but I still feel like the Oculus Rift team is very much intact in the way that it was before, and
Right.
the Facebook acquisition, I don't know if that really factors into it too much. I know that the my big thing with Project Morpheus, being a PC gamer myself, I don't play a lot on PlayStation. But with
Right.
Project Morpheus, I'm worried that that's going to be a very closed system. It's like with like the Microsoft Kinect, which back in the day would have been the cool thing to talk about, but not anymore, obviously.
Right.
Sony has its answer in the PlayStation Move, but no one's really doing anything with the no one's doing anything with the Kinect that Microsoft doesn't know about, and I feel like with the exception of some of the stuff that's on PC, but even then, I mean, those dev tools were released by Microsoft. I feel with like Project Morpheus, you're not going to get the PC support because it's not a Microsoft product. And so we might just see it kind of go the way of the Move or the the PlayStation cameras, and not that it isn't great technology, but it's really a big gamble for someone to buy into that as a game developer.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that open platform support of anyone can make a game for the Oculus Rift essentially, or that will be the idea because it's more open. So I don't know. I think it's cool that the consoles have their answer. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work out.
Now, what do you think for the Oculus Rift and Project Morpheus? What would be a reasonable buying price for this? Say it came out and they had a vast majority of games or a very good use for it.
Right.
What would be a good market to pay for this? Because I don't want to be dropping like $600-700 just to strap something on my face for
That's true.
4 hours of fun.
Yeah. Sean, I want to get your input on this. What do you think? What's the price that would make you buy a VR headset?
I'll tell you what. Right now, I won't even buy the next PlayStation or Xbox.
What?
Technology changes so quickly that, and I don't want to say it's because of my age, but after PlayStation 2, I was like, I'm not buying anything else until they come up with just the one system that is just going to so floor me that I'm going to be at the store that day buying it. Otherwise, it's just, even with telephones and cell phones and things, it's changing on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm waiting. There are a few games here and there and neat things that are cool, but I'm waiting for the one big thing, like the first time when the NES came out or Genesis
Right.
or
Oh,
the
yeah.
Xbox. I'm waiting for that one thing to say that's going to do it all. That's the charger that I want in my driveway. That's what I want.
Do you think that's VR, or do you think it's something else?
It could be VR. Again, it's cool that you have the technology, but the next thing is what do you do with it?
Right.
You can invent a Sega Saturn, but if you come out with crap for games, no one's going to buy it.
And that was a big thing when the PlayStation 3 launched. Was the PlayStation 3 was more powerful than the 360, but I think a lot of people will argue that the last generation was won by the Xbox just because the PlayStation 3's internal architecture was very complicated to code for, and games either were not coming out on PlayStation 3 or even some games that were cross-platform. Call of Duty,
Right.
any hardcore Call of Duty fan will tell you you play Call of Duty on the 360 because the ports were not as good on PS3 because it was a harder system to code for. And
well, a lot of it was, there was more games for the 360 than the PS3, and cost played a big part.
Exactly.
I could afford an Xbox 360, but I couldn't afford $300-400 for a PlayStation 3 back then.
And especially with game consoles, you get a snowball effect where, if you and Sean go out and buy Xbox 360s, well, all of a sudden, two of my friends are on 360. Why am I going to buy a PS3? Even if it is a better console.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Or you get sucked into the whole thing like my girlfriend, she bought the Nintendo Wii, which was cute, it was fun, and then I'm like, all right, so what can you do?
Right.
And it's like, well, I've got all these cute games over here the kids love, and I'm like, good night. Goodbye.
Yeah. Well, I think you're clearly overlooking the virtual porn market. I mean, that's just something the Wii did not have.
Well, it's in Japan. Japan has actually took the virtual reality and has made a device so when you strap on the virtual reality, it's a torso of a woman's torso, and it's like a boob simulator.
Yep.
You can actually feel a woman's chest, and it's like being the real thing.
It's exactly the real thing. I tell you what, if you look at it from a market standpoint, from economics, that is a one-time investment that gives you boobs for life. But a real girlfriend, I mean, that's a reoccurring cost. And I'm just not sure, so I think what the real topic of conversation needs to be is, are real relationships going to be financially viable after the Oculus Rift comes out?
Right.
I just don't.
What I like is Japan has never been shy about showing off what it likes, It's like over here, people go nuts when they see something like 50 Shades of Grey. Over there, they're like, oh, we want little girls in schoolgirl outfits and anime tentacles,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which it's hilarious because, not that I would know, but, like any pornography from Japan, you don't see any penises. Those are censored out, but everything else is cool. Like, you do anything else and that's totally fine, but you show a penis? No, not for our porn. That's.
And the best part is you call it anime and everybody thinks it's art, so you're safe.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, there you go. All right. So, all right. Any closing thoughts on virtual reality? I think that was a.
No, that was good. I think actually you could transition, since we left off on boobs in Japan, you could actually transition into sex and video games.
Yeah. So this was and this is a good topic, and I want to bring this around video games. I also want to talk movies here. Sex and sexuality. BioWare recently released Dragon Age Inquisition. It's up for Game of the Year all over the place. It's already won a couple of awards, and it's largely being praised as their return to form as far as RPGs go. For those of you that aren't gamers out there, RPG is a role-playing game. So basically, I create a character, I go into this world, and there's a preset story for me to follow, and there's characters for me to meet, but my interactions with those characters and the different kind of side paths to the story are yours to kind of explore. And one thing that BioWare has always been really good at is making incredibly diverse casts of characters. And I just wanted to say, Dragon Age Inquisition knocks it out of the park with characters and sex and sexuality. I don't know, John, I know you'll probably remember, and Sean, I don't know if you were following up on the news at the time. When the original Mass Effect came out, there was a big stir because you could have sex in the game, but it was not just a scene. Like, you actually, the scene itself had no engaging, but getting to that point did. And for some reason, Fox News thought that was just corrupting on our children. Do you remember that?
Well, that's
I
Fox
do.
News. Too. Fox News will do anything to jump on anything and turn it into a story because they don't actually report real news.
That's true.
Right.
But I read an interesting article. I believe it was on PC Gamer after that came out, and it said you'll notice that the sex scene in Mass Effect 1 was not not super hardcore. There have
No.
been The Witcher 2 comes to mind. Some much more graphic sex scenes. We use the word graphic to mean good here. Let's be honest. And but that have come out after that, and nobody bats an eye because BioWare kind of took the hit, and they said that okay, we're gonna fight this fight once. People realized that 2 years later that kids weren't getting pregnant at 12,
Right.
and it wasn't because of Mass Effect, and they the story's over. But I think that what people overlook when they talk about oh, you can have sex in this video game is they overlook the relationship that you have to build up to get there, and they
Yeah.
overlook just how incredibly diverse the cast is. In Dragon Age, the world of Dragon Age is built around homosexuality being a thing. Heterosexuality is just a thing. People are not. It's not like today's world where we're starting to come to terms with this idea that people like people. Penis and penis is okay. And
Yeah.
and the world of Thetis where Dragon Age takes place is it's a world where these characters are not defined by sexuality. It is I like dudes and I'm a dude, but here's everything else that's interesting about me, and I just think that that's really well done. And I guess where I want to transition into movies and Sean, kind of get your opinion is where do you think? Because in my opinion, from an amateur movie critic and watcher, I feel like movies haven't made the same transition. If there's a gay character in a movie, he is very much that's his character, as he's the gay character. Or you get a movie like Brokeback Mountain, which, not to say anything bad about the movie, but it is a movie focused around homosexuality, and that's the plot. You don't get a lot of people who are just gay because that's just an okay thing to be. Like I don't know. I'm curious. Where do you think that I'm wrong, or do you think where do you think we've got movement and room to grow
it's
there?
amazing that America still and again it's the old argument that you can blow up someone on screen into a million pieces, but you can't show their dick.
Yeah.
And we have always been a very repressed country when it comes to that. And not just all of us. I mean, all the creative people are sitting there going, hey, here's something I want to do. Here's something that's different. Here's something that is with the times. And when I say with the times is that people don't want to accept the fact that we are evolving, not just as physically, but we're also evolving mentally. Things are a lot different from the 1950s when a woman would maybe show her thigh in a movie and everybody would go, oh my God.
Yeah.
But, now people are willing to do that, but you still have the overwhelming, I hate to say moral majority, that sit there and say, no, we want to keep things exactly the way they are. And no matter what the 99% of the game or movie is, all they're focused on is that one point. And that's what drags the whole debate and sets it on fire, and the media jumps on into it, and it just turns into a great big cluster.
That's true, and I remember, and John, I don't know if you watched the Fox News article or Fox News video clip of Mass Effect. I watched it a few years ago, and they actually did it as and I'm air quoting here, debate, where they took a guy from Spike TV, which was at the time a video game focused network, and they took some child therapist or whatever, and his first question when he got to debate was, "Have you played the game?" She was like, no. And what is amazing to me is in what other argument is it okay to say, well, I haven't actually experienced the thing that I'm about to tell you that I have all the knowledge on. I don't. That would not be okay if it wasn't for the fact that we have led up to this segment with a clear bias towards our child psychologists, air quotes again, and for whatever reason they glaze over the fact that just because you know one piece of this puzzle does not mean you know the whole thing. I think it's great. I think it really is, in the midst of this year being kind of a shitty year for gamers and people, looking down on what we're, what the culture, and because a lot of gamers are bigoted assholes, but a lot of people are too.
Yeah.
And I think that a game like Dragon Age that comes out where, there are gay characters, there's straight characters, there's dwarves laying with elves, and that's just a thing. And it isn't it isn't a central part of the game. Is in I think people hear that and they go, oh my god, this is like porno simulator with dwarves and elves,
Well,
and
that's what the game is about anyway. It's all about sex.
exactly.
Right.
Yeah, and what people don't realize is this is a massive game. I have 50 hours into it already, and I'm not even done with the main story, and I haven't had sex with anybody. Like,
Right.
I've been doing a bunch of other stuff, and what's even more amazing to me is the characters and the one girl that my dwarf in the game is romancing. I feel a connection to her. Like I want her to succeed. I want her to do well. And I'm not trying to say that I'm some basement dweller who is like, thinking about this virtual woman all the time, but I think about her in the same way that I would think about a character in a book that I really liked or in a character in a movie that I
Yeah.
really like. You
Yeah.
want them to succeed, you want them to do well. You know they're not real, but you form an attachment because there's great writing behind it.
Well, it's also like when you compare, since you brought up books, I mean, if you ask any like big Harry Potter fan, they had like people they wanted to get together, such as like
Yeah.
Hermione and Harry. Some people wanted them to get together, or Hermione and Ron.
Mhm.
And they're not real, but like you said, they had this attachment to that character, and they wanted them to succeed. They wanted them to be together in the end.
Right.
And like you said earlier, most of these people that bring up these big debates or say, "Oh no, this is wrong," are people who have not actually experienced, have not taken the time to read the book or watch the movie or play the game.
Right.
So they're just saying there's sex in this game. That's what the main story is, and that's
It doesn't
not
matter. It offends me, and I want it gone.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what they do. You
One in this courtroom without hearing any of the details.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, there's games and that they've made with sex in them, but it's not forced on you to actually partake in it.
Right.
Like you said, you played 50 hours of Dragon Age, and then
Yeah.
you still haven't even had to.
And let me
Because you know
clarify.
it's not needed.
I've played 50 hours trying to. This isn't like one of those games. This isn't like one of those games. And people made this mistake with the Mass Effect thing. They assumed that it's this game that you fire up and you walk up to some chick on a spaceship and you're like, yo, you want to get down? And then you get this cutscene.
Right.
That's not the way it is. And as a matter
No.
of fact, the thing that offends me the most about that is the air-quoted child psychologist, when they talked about Mass Effect, said that it degrades women. It shows women as an object for sex, and that's what people are going to grow up as. The characters that BioWare writes do not relate to gender at all. The characters in Mass Effect that you could quote-unquote seduce, one was a brilliant scientist, and the other one was a badass soldier. And that's not doing them justice enough. These were strong women, and I don't mean strong women in the sense of you think that by being sassy and back talking and just being an overall jerk is a strong woman. I mean like a strong woman, as in really is not held back or fits into a gender role, and BioWare was not afraid to take that approach and say, look, women can be just as influential and as powerful as men, and you can play women in all of BioWare's games,
Right.
and
Yeah.
you are basically the center of the universe for whatever game you're playing. And they are they write believable universes, so it's not to say that they're treated equally in the sense that but there is a distinction, but it is never a distinction of discrimination on the part of the developer or of the player.
And I mean, this happens almost every time somebody tries to push the envelope. They're looking at it as a form of art, or they're trying to, see how far they can take it. But anytime somebody throws a sex scene in, or they try to add something new and try to just see how comfortable people will feel with this, everybody backs up and says, "Whoa, what are you doing?
Yeah.
That's not right."
Yeah. So Sean, 2014, what do you think? Do you think that we've seen more or less in terms of movies? Do you think that we're moving closer towards that goal of that being okay? I mean, what did you see this year? Is there anything you could think of this year that really, kind of struck you as like this is sex-wise, sexuality-wise, that was more progressive?
I saw nothing. I have, although I do have in my Netflix queue, Nymphomaniac Part 1 and 2 by Lars von Trier. But the bad thing about that, in Lars von Trier, the director, and this goes for like the director of The Brown Bunny, is that you have these artiste directors who set out to make something that is so offbeat and so goofy that nobody pays attention to it because it's so goofy anyways, and it doesn't fall into the mainstream thing.
Right.
I think what's going to be really interesting about 2015 is when they finally do release 50 Shades of Grey, which every woman is talking about. And when the movie comes out, then it's time to stand up, look at the women, and go, okay, put up or shut up. Let's go see it.
Right. So
but, it's very sanitized, very clean Hollywood. And you know what I mean when I'm saying that.
yeah.
It's like the goofy lighting, the angles, and this and that. You don't ever really see anything.
Right.
But I don't see anything changing in the whole thing. I mean, if you got to do anything, you got to go straight to video or go to Europe. You know, that's where
true.
they don't care, and they're just like, hey, we're putting a sex scene in here. You know, it's backdoor sex. We don't care. We're Europe. You know.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you like it, you like it. Don't watch it. And that's the whole thing about America is that people don't pay attention to ratings or anything else. All they focus on is if they see on the poster the word sex, boom. They're in, they hate it, they're outraged, done.
Yep. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, John, but Sean, you actually partook in the 50 Shades of Grey trilogy. I remember on Facebook a little while ago. You've skimmed some of it.
I read all 3 books.
Okay. So, as someone who has not read all 3 books, and not because I am opposed, but just because I don't have a whole lot of time to read, what it is, I know it's been described actually by you, I believe, as a sort of mommy porn. So taking on a movie that is very clearly not a pornographic film, do you think that it's going to have value outside of just the title?
None, because I'll be honest here. I read the first book and I skimmed through the second 2 because I thought the first book was just incredibly boring. What you have is basically rich guy brings shallow girl out of her shell, and he does it through S&M and everything else. And the thing is, half to 3/4 of the book is them communicating in text. Now I want you to imagine sitting down to a 500-page book and reading text messages, and that's what it basically is. And it's a lot of, well, I know something. Well, what do you know? Well, I'm not going to tell you. You're going to have to find out. You know, it's that kind of tease for 3 freaking books.
It's like
and then it's like, okay, let me throw in some spanking. Let me throw in something here. Let me throw in. There's basically like 3 sex scenes, if you can even call them that, in the first book. And it's just done. It's just thrown in there to like. It's like they describe action movies. In Hollywood, they say in an action movie you have to have an action set piece every 10 minutes in the movie. Otherwise, the audience is going to tune out. But mommy porn, it was like Interview with the Vampire. Ooh, that's a sexy vampire. We all have to read that.
So
if you can set the women in on a promise of something, they will eat it like Oreos.
So I'm confused. Did you read 50 Shades of Grey, or did you read the transcript of the Kwame Kilpatrick trial? Because
wow.
Because
I did read the first book and I skimmed through the second 2. So.
All right. Yeah, because that's actually I'm glad that we made our way into that, because I was struggling to come up with a good movie, but to me that's going in the opposite direction. But we run into double standards there, where that has been a primarily female-driven series that I think is going to get away with it in Hollywood because it isn't targeted towards men. But
right.
I think it's going the wrong direction. I think that is going to be a movie that, like you said, isn't going to have value outside of sex. And movies, to me, to clarify, where I say that they need progression is more so in sexuality than in sex. I think movies for a very long time have known where sex belongs.
Right.
And it is oftentimes both of you have seen Watchmen, correct?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
There's a great sex scene in that movie, but it is very clearly a part. There's a couple of them actually, but there are very clearly story elements.
Right.
And that is something that I personally think that games have captured, but that a lot of people disagree with. But so movies, I think, as far as sex goes, they've captured that. I think 50 Shades of Grey is going to be taking a step backwards from that.
I think 50 Shades of Grey is going to be the greatest unintentional comedy of 2015.
Yeah.
It doesn't depend. Even if the movie is like, oh my God, this thing should win an Oscar, people are going to walk out of there giggling like little kids.
Yeah.
And everyone's going to feel silly after seeing it. And I think it's just going to be one of those things where, I saw that movie. It's going to turn into the Showgirls of 2015.
There is a good chance that I may go to see it just because it will be so bad. Like,
yeah.
I imagine though that from how you describe the books, I imagine that it's going to be one of those things where it's going to be kind of boring. Like it might not even be fun to watch, knowing it's going to be bad. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. So on a similar vein, Sean, you had mentioned earlier that you can blow a guy into a million pieces but not see his dick. There is an interesting news development that's come out of the gaming scene, and I'll fill you in to give you some of the background. Game called Hatred.
Oh yeah.
It is basically for anyone listening at home that doesn't know. It is basically undoing everything the gaming industry has tried to wash its hands clean of for the past 40 years. It is literally in the trailer, and I encourage you to watch it. I theoretically could show it, but for a couple of reasons I'm not going to. One, because I don't support the game.
Right.
Two, because of copyright, and three, because I don't know if video is going to make the final cut. The trailer literally starts with a guy basically saying, I hate everybody, and I'm going to kill him. And the entire game is about you as this gothic-looking dude running around towns murdering innocent people in graphic ways. Now, it drew a lot of controversy from that, but in my opinion, what we're seeing here is we're seeing a bad game that is based around something that the developers knew they were going to get free publicity out of. We're only talking about it because it's so awful, and this is free marketing for them. But
this is huge marketing for them, and that's what people don't understand is how many people have gone and watched this trailer because somebody said it's horrible what they do in this game, and I can't believe you just made a game where you go around killing innocent civilians. And I mean, some of the stuff that they show in this trailer is very, very graphic, but who doesn't know that this company producing this game doesn't want that negativity because it's giving them so much attention, so much, and the more
There's
people
no such thing as bad PR.
Yep.
No, and that's what they're getting. They're getting tons of it. And you know what the funny thing is they haven't even really shown a story behind it. It's a trailer. The guy says, I hate the world. So for all we know, the game could literally suck. It could be like the worst game they've ever made.
And I bet you it will.
And it probably will. But everybody's up in arms about it, and just because of this trailer.
But the news that we wanted to get to. So in my opinion, and that's why I brought up the free advertising. So the major video game publishing platforms, and I understand we're going to have an audience that is maybe not going to be made up of gamers. And I promise in future weeks we won't have as many gaming-related topics. But digital distribution is a big deal in games. Steam is the biggest one, made by Valve Software. And that is basically considered to have a monopoly over the game market. There's also a couple of other ones that are relatively successful. After the Hatred trailer launched, the devs basically came out and said, we want to put this on X platforms. Your guys' move. And basically, I mean, they set themselves up, in my opinion, they set themselves up for failure. They released a trailer that was going to be, they knew people weren't going to like, and then they immediately went on and jumped the shark and said, hey, are you going to let us publish? So Steam Greenlight is a program where you can put your user-created game onto Steam Greenlight. Users vote on it, and then games with higher votes are sent to Valve Software to be approved as to whether or not they can be sold on the marketplace. Hatred had been up for, and I'm not looking at the facts, so don't quote me, but it had been up for about 7 hours. It had gotten about 20,000 views, and I think 19,000 of them, or some ridiculously skewed number like that, had been positive, meaning people said, yes, I would buy this game if it was on Steam. Steam then went out as a company and said, no, and took the game down. Later after we had actually decided to cover this topic, Gabe Newell, who is the CEO of Valve, the company that owns Steam, later heard about this and redacted the position and let Hatred go back up on Greenlight. That does not mean that it is going to be allowed to be published, but it just means that it's allowed to be voted on. So what I really want to talk about, because I think the violence in video games thing has been beaten to death, right? We all know that no one killing someone in a video game means they're going to kill people in real life. We all know that. What I want to talk about is a lot of people are saying that this is a censorship and it's a freedom of speech debate. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on that.
The game is something, and this is one of those things you call something we're all thinking about, but we don't want to say out loud. That's what these guys have done. And this goes back to other games like Bully. Do everybody remember Bully?
I remember Bully.
Yep.
How could someone make a game about that glorifies that? I'll take you all the way back. to the Atari 2600 in a game called Custer's Revenge. Have you ever heard of that?
I have
No,
heard of
actually.
Custer's Revenge.
There
Oh,
was a company that came out with a couple X-rated video games for the Atari 2600, and one was called Custer's Revenge, in which you are basically General Custer with your wang out in front of you, and on the other side of the screen was this Indian maiden tied to a post, and you had to make your way across the screen, dodging falling arrows so you could boink her as many times as possible.
Wow.
The thing is that, like a drug dealer knows how to work his market. He holds up a bag and he goes, "Look what I've got. Who wants it?" And that's exactly what they've done. They've dangled the carrot, and now everybody's like, "Well, I want it, but I don't want to be the first one to do it. Hey, why don't you do it? And then I'll get it from you." And it's a feeding frenzy. They know exactly what they're doing. It's like Madonna. Madonna has spent, 40, 50 years doing the exact same thing. Hey, here's my ass. Now I'll get my album, Yay.
Right.
fair enough. John, what do you think?
I mean, to the whole thing, it's art. And that's what, like, we go back to pushing the envelope. These people made a game, pushed the envelope, and everybody got uncomfortable with it because they're doing something, like Sean said, that we're all thinking, but they actually went ahead and did it. And it is a form of art, believe it or not, and no matter how bad it gets and everything, but you can do the same thing that this game is doing in games nowadays. GTA 5, you can do it.
Right.
You could do it all the way back in GTA 2 on the PlayStation 1.
Absolutely.
After you played it for 10 hours, who didn't want to pick up the machine gun and just run down the street blowing up cars until the police came along?
Exactly, yeah. And, I think I see where you're coming from. I think my problem with this is that I think that it is art in the same way that a crappy painting is. Like,
Yes.
it is not.
It's not great art. It's
Right.
not. I mean, it's not going to be something you'd go and see like Leonardo da Vinci or whatever and see one of their pieces of artwork. I mean, it's not that great, but I mean, nonetheless, it is a form of art.
Right.
It will catch your eye when you're walking through the art gallery.
Yeah. And honestly, it's one of those games that, like, to me, I'm not interested by it, but the negative, I mean, basically their free marketing campaign that they've drummed up, that's
Yes.
genius. Got to give them credit for that. And it's given me an interest in the title, but I think the problem is, as we got to take, in my opinion, we have to take baby steps to get to this point, right? I think that you could write a book right now, a fictional book about a school shooting, and you could call it a work of art that investigates the workings of a madman, right? Like it would be a fascinating read. It would be a disgusting book, but Fight Club. Fight Club is not and I'm talking primarily about the book, although the movie, it's great that it has such a successful movie. It contributes to my point. Fight Club, guys, in case you haven't figured it out, it's a book and subsequently a movie about a psychopath. I mean, and people praise that as being one of the best movies ever written. The book is, I would argue, more violent and more grotesque than the movie. The opening of the book starts with telling you how to build bombs. Like that, there are big chunks of very graphic scenes of fights and violence. And I read it in my AP literature class in high school because it was required reading for my AP literature class. So, video games, I think, can do the same thing. I think that a game like GTA 5 is a much better step because it's got great characters and a great story, and no one is arguing that the characters in GTA 5 are good people. They're awful people.
It's such a great, I mean, those characters in that game and the story in that game are so good.
Right.
But, like, and that's kind of what justifies that violence and being able to do this is because those characters that you play as and the story that you go through is fantastic. To whereas a game like Hatred, all we've seen is a trailer. We don't know what the story is. We don't actually know what's going on. For all we could know is the innocent people that are being killed in this game could be aliens. I mean, they could be I don't know, people from another planet invading, and it's an alien invasion, and we didn't know about it, and the guy's actually saving the Earth.
Right.
But we have no story to go off of.
I think you are an optimistic, and I love you for it.
Right?
And, my biggest problem with it, though, is that it is basically trying... I don't think personally that the developers have any intentions of making a game that has any value behind it besides just shock value. And I think that
Yep.
overall, I think that hurts the industry, like in general, because people point to it's like when you've got a friend. He's a really
Yeah.
great friend. He's a really great guy, but he does cocaine. And like
Yeah.
every time people talk about him, you're like, yeah, he's really great. He's really great. And they point to and he's like, yeah, but he does coke. And you're like, I can't defend you on this one. Like, I really like you, and you're great in a lot of ways, but I can't defend cocaine. Like, I can, if I sat down with someone who wasn't very good, who didn't know a lot about games, but knew that Grand Theft Auto was a bad game, I could argue day and night that Grand Theft Auto is a work of art and that it deserves to be sold on store shelves. I can't do that with hatred, and it makes the entire industry look bad because it's that one ugly duckling that people can point to and say, you guys aren't doing art, and this is why. And I can come back with 1,000 reasons as to why we are, but that one game is always going to bring us down.
They are the guys that come along and say, "Ha, we made a game too." Nah, 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 nah. Can't hurt us because we're arts. We're artists.
Exactly. Yes. But to go further on that, I'm glad we got everyone's opinions on the game. Do you think it is a violation of free speech and censorship that Valve pulled it off of Steam? Now, keep in mind that Steam is considered to be a monopoly over. It is proven with figures that games that are not on Steam very rarely sell as well as games that do.
Right.
Do you think that it is an unfair exercise of Valve's power to pull this game simply because one presumes they didn't like it?
Well, this could also be tied into the recent Sony thing with all the leaked email. You know, it's like you say, how much are they looking out for us for our crossing the line mentality, and how much are they doing it just to say, look at us, look at how good we are, because we're not participating in that. You know,
Right.
Is it a PR move, or is it actually a justified line in the sand that says we will only go this far and we will not put out trash?
You know, and I've seen a lot of people that, and again, I do want to emphasize that the game is back up on Greenlight. Doesn't mean it's going to get published, but they did redact that decision, although I think that the conversation still needs to be had. I saw a lot of people have been kind of white knighting this and being, like going on about how it's a violation of freedom of speech and blah, blah, blah. But I saw a really good parallelism that some dude on Reddit drew, and he said, you can have your, pornography, but Best Buy doesn't have to sell it. And it's the same thing with me. I mean, I feel like it's equally as oppressive on a distributor to say you need to let everything come through the floodgates. Like you need to say, all right, if you're gonna let BioShock Infinite be in your store, you also need to let Hatred on your store.
You're all in or you're all out.
Right.
Right.
Because retail stores don't do that.
Yeah. This takes me back to the first video game crash in the 80s when everybody was producing games for the Atari 2600, the Intellivision, the ColecoVision, and pretty soon you had all these third-party developers who were just shoveling crap onto the market. I mean, crap games. And it just over-delivered the whole thing, and the whole video game market crashed. That's why you saw the end of Intellivision, ColecoVision, Atari, and whatnot at that time. So it's just, it's all, I could almost parallel it to it when you see a blockbuster movie. Then you have all of these companies like the Asylum that puts out direct-to-video knockoffs of it. That every market eventually gets diluted because there's everyone and their brother saying, "Oh, I can do that too," and put out a quick version of it, and it kind of ruins it for everybody.
Right. Yeah, and I think that I am personally of the opinion that if you want to take on it's different to me. It would be different if the game came out and it was more Grand Theft Auto-like, right? And it said, here, we're a game, you can also kill innocents. Whereas Hatred came out and it said, we're a game about killing innocents. And to me, that just means...
was to take this game and say, instead of just taking it down because it's bad and it offends people, if they actually said, it's a poor game, it's not good, it's not going to sell well, let's get it down so we don't look bad, that would be different than being like, oh, it's horrible, you're killing innocent people, let's take it down and do it that way.
And I don't think personally that the game shouldn't be made. I mean, in my mind, the repression of the freedom of speech is, okay, I can create my own religion, and I can preach all about Connorism,
but
my freedom of speech does not mean anyone has to listen.
Right.
And I think it's unfair to say it's a violation of freedom of speech because they took their game out the marketplace. No. If you want to make a controversial game, feel free to do it. Sell it in your own store, and I don't want to stop you from doing that, but your freedom of speech does not entitle you to come into my store and sell stuff I don't want.
Exactly.
And the reason why I'm taking that stance, whereas recently Targets in Australia pulled GTA 5 off the shelves. They said we don't want to sell this game. I have a different opinion of that because I think that game has value outside of the crimes that you can commit. I would argue that is not justified because there's a lot of good to be found, even though you could argue there's some bad. That may exist in Hatred, but the developers have chosen to not show us that. They have deliberately chosen to show us only the innocent killing parts, which makes me believe, with good reason, that that's all there is to the game, and therefore I don't want it in my store.
It possibly could just be you running around trying to survive as long as you can before the cops put you down, and you're trying to kill as many people as you can. But I don't know. Like you're saying, they're not forcing us to buy this game. No one is saying you have to buy this game. Mm-hmm. This is I've made this game. I'm selling it. You have to buy it. To the Target thing going on in Australia, the funny thing about that is this game has been out for over a year.
Right, yeah.
And due to the fact that they made an update for a game to where you can go in first-person mode, they were like, no, this is horrible, it's bad, you can kill innocent women. Newsflash, people, you can switch the camera from first person to third person.
Yeah.
And obviously, being in third-person mode, it's not as graphic, it's not as bad. So, but like I said, nobody's forcing you to buy GTA 5 because it's a hot-selling item. No one's forcing you to buy Hatred. If you don't like it, if it offends you, if it upsets you, don't buy it. That's all there is to it.
But
that's right, and it's a whole thing of they're dangling the carrot. And the thing is that no matter what happens, this game is going to turn it. If they publish this game, and it's eventually going to get published, I believe it will, because it's an automatic moneymaker.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to become the equivalent to beer pong. Everybody's going to want to have it at their party and go, ha, look what I'm going to do next. Boom. And that's what it's going to turn into. No one's going to buy it because it's like, wow, this is the greatest video game ever made. It's going to be like, let's see what we can do if we do this.
Right.
It's a gimmick game, and people are going to buy it.
It's like that dirty little secret you have, like when your friends all get together and you're like, hey guys, I bought a beer, and you're like underage, and you're like, let's go drink a beer. Yeah, everyone's doing it. That's what it's going to be like.
Yeah.
Sure.
And ultimately, I think it's going to end up being a bad game, not because of its subject material, but the trailer looks generic. It doesn't look like anything. If you take out the opening monologue bits and you replace the models of defenseless people and police officers with zombies, it looks like every other top-down shooter game that's been made in the last a decade. It's not unique. It's not original. Man, I had a really good segue, but we moved on and I lost it. So Sony cans the interview. That's the big news this week. Everyone's been talking about it. As a matter of fact, when we picked this topic, it had just come out. It was the top link on Reddit. Sony said, we're not showing the interview. A bunch of a lot of the big major news outlets, a lot of the big major opinion podcasts and stuff covered it right then and there. Well, over here at the Best Damn Podcast, we waited until all the news was out, and a lot of stuff has come to light about this, both Sony's response, the president's gotten involved, some potential ways that you will be able to watch the movie later on. So who wants to set the stage on this one?
I think what's really funny is that out of all the comments and everything that's been made on it, is that Barack Obama's comments are pretty much, who cares?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, the President of the United States comes out and says something, and everyone's like, okay, great, go sit at the card table with the kids while the rest of us come. But I think the expected waves have come. The denial by Sony, George Clooney coming out, and I think George Clooney should be president of the United States, I swear.
Right, yeah.
You know what? And he has come out and he did the classy thing because he did try to engage Hollywood into doing something about this, and it really showed Hollywood's lack of balls, which everybody has known about, but no one would ever admit to.
Right. So for those of you that have been living under a rock, I want to outline it briefly. The Interview is a movie with Seth Rogen and help me, who's the other guy?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Anyway,
Franco.
yeah, that's
James
it.
Franco. Yep.
James Franco and Seth Rogen. They make this movie where they are they're hosts of some TV show. They get access to go to North Korea and do an interview with Kim Jong Un, and while they're there, the United States contracts them and says, "Hey, look, we want you to kill Kim Jong Un."
Right.
In a way, and so basically, the North Koreans got wind of this. When the movie was first announced, they said that if the movie got released, we would declare it an act of war, which everyone kind of laughed off because it's North Korea and they do stupid stuff like that.
Yep.
And so recently, Sony was hacked, and it was a big hack. I mean, a lot of personal information was stolen about employees, personal emails, scripts, paychecks, pay stubs, social security numbers of people that work there. And
this was the textbook example of how the average person deals with all their online information. And it had to be Hollywood. I'm not happy about it, but I just think that a lot of Hollywood people finally got the comeuppance they deserve for their arrogance and in this whole thing. All right, I'm up.
Yeah. Sony took their security tips from Jennifer Lawrence and apparently encrypted everything the same way she did. So anyway, so there's this big hack, everything's released, and the hackers had mentioned that if the Interview goes out, we're gonna start blowing up movie theaters. You know, it was supposed to be a Christmas Day launch movie, and they straight up said they threatened to blow up movie theaters if this came out. Now, where our technical topic is Sony cans the Interview, but really what happened is all of the movie theaters partnered with Sony said we're not showing it, and
Right.
Sony's hands were kind of tied. You can't really release a movie without the theaters, because even if they wanted to go direct to DVD, they don't have the DVDs printed. They've got none of that. None of that's ready. I mean, it takes months to get to DVD because they want to make money at the box office, but it also takes months to get to DVD because there's actual physical manufacturing that has to go on.
Right.
So, I mean, their hands were tied, and that was one of the things they backpedaled on later and said, "We're not saying we're not going to ever show this movie. We're saying that we physically cannot show it because MGM said we don't want it."
Everybody said they don't.
Everyone said. I was using MGM as an example. So basically, that's where we are now. It's not coming out on the 25th. I did just read an article today that said that Sony will be releasing the Interview for free on their movie streaming service, which I believe is called like Crackle or something. I had never heard of it.
I was going to actually mention that. I was going to say, why doesn't Sony, instead of releasing it in theaters or putting it on a DVD, why not do video on demand? Do something, pay Netflix so they stream it on their channel, put it on Hulu, put it on Amazon Prime, release it to where, I mean, you've put $40 million into making this movie.
Yep.
Why not make it on the internet so everybody can just sit at home and watch it if they want to?
And you know, and
for them to say, well, we're not sure how we would release it now. That's a bold-faced lie. They are completely behind the times. You cannot say with all the technology we have today, we can't figure out how to get it to people.
You could totally figure out a way. With the internet and everything that we have and how far we've come with technology, there's a way.
Right. Well, and I'm actually going to steal this this line of thinking from another podcast, but it's one that I agree with. The Interview, when it was announced, it sounded interesting because it was such a real life topic. You know, it's one of those movies that in 20 years is anyone still going to be talking about it? No, but today it really feeds into pop culture. It's funny. It's going to be good. I probably would have seen it, but to be honest with you, I forgot about it until Sony said they're not going to show it. And it's one of those things of like now, literally, a lot of the scenes have leaked. And one of the things that people have said is more people have probably seen the scene where Kim Jong-un dies in the movie now that it has been canned, and I'm air quoting again, than they would have if they would have just let the movie release. It's that's the Barbra Streisand effect. Like everyone said, North Korea or whoever it actually was, because there is some debate. The government officially came out and said that North Korea was responsible for the hacks, but a lot of insiders have said that you would have to know Sony's architecture a lot better than North Korea does. But basically, let's say the hackers or North Korea said Nobody look at me. And then everyone turned around and looked at him. Because that's what happens when you yell in a crowded room. No one
Right.
really cared. I mean, the interview was probably going to do moderately well. Maybe not critically, just because a lot of
No.
movies like that don't. But it was probably going to do moderately well at the box office. I might have gone and seen it on a whim. But let me tell you, if Sony said, it's back on, it's coming out, I'd be going tonight to go see it. Only because, just because, like, North Korea doesn't want me to.
Right.
Um,
It's an act of defiance against the country.
exactly. Yeah.
Speaking of like the reviews and everything on it, on Metacritic, the score it got was a 47. I mean, so it didn't even score that well. So a lot of people, the only reason this thing is getting so much hype is due to the fact that people want that it got banned. I mean,
Exactly.
It really, to quote somebody on here, they said the interview fails to live up to the hype, floundering as a rowdy comedy as it goes, duller by the minute. So it's not even that great of a movie. It's just the fact that it got banned.
Yeah. I don't even
Right.
give a shit that you just read that. I still want to see it.
Right. And I mean, before this happened, not a lot of people heard about it. It was kind of under the rock. I mean, sure, you may have seen a trailer or two, but then, like you said, you forgot all about it until Sony was like, okay, we can't show this
Yep.
movie no more.
Yep.
And since that happened, everybody wants to see it.
It is
Don't put your hand in the cookie jar. Oh, yeah? Well, I'm going to.
Yes.
It is a reverse of the producers. In the producers, they tried to find a stage show that was so offensive that it would fail disastrously, and they would make all the money back on investments. In this situation, they tried to make a really funny movie, and it turned disastrous.
And everyone's like, let's go see it.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean,
it's all over Seth Rogen and James Franco, the Cheech and Chong of the modern day. That's what makes me
Basically.
hate Paul the most over this whole thing.
Yeah.
so I guess my question to our panel of two here is, my biggest problem with this is not that the interview got pulled, but I feel like it gives other groups power to do the same thing in the future. We've set a precedent where now, and I'm not just talking about radicalists from across the pond, which is usually a term talking about Europe, and I'm not hating on Europe, but I'm not talking about radicalists from within our own country or outside. I'm talking about radical groups that are, otherwise tame. What's PETA gonna do when the next movie about whale hunting comes out? Like, and they're all of a sudden gonna say, oh, now PETA's gonna blow up movie theaters, and oh, well, we can't show that movie. I mean, it is. I don't like the idea that we gave in so easily. I feel like post 9/11 America is a country that is filled with fear, and terrorists win.
And
They
that pisses me off so much that we gave in, that we said, whoa, okay, I guess we won't do it now. When the FDA stood up and said, there's no sign of physical threat. We have not found anything that's like that. But we still were so chicken shit that we backed up.
Yeah.
And,
Like I said, this is the biggest awakening for America, in that we all know how heartless Hollywood is. All the producers, all the directors yelling, screaming, negotiating, whatnot. This has shown them, this is proof positive that they are all just a bunch of talk.
Yeah.
And they have no balls at all. This is exposed, and if not just Sony, this has sent shockwaves to the other studios, because all the other studios are like, oh, shit, if they got exposed, what's going to happen to us?
Not only that.
Hollywood is holding its balls right now and going, we got nothing. We finally don't see what you figured for years. We are heartless, soulless, ballless people.
Well, a lot of people have also been told now, in the wake of the interview being banned, for movie theaters, hometown movie theaters that often show older movies, not to show Team America World Police, which is a very anti-North Korea movie. And
10 years old.
And amazing, more to the point. And and maybe, Sean, you shared this, or maybe it was on Reddit, but Steve Carell was working on a movie that they just recently canceled that was also related to North Korea. And here's the thing, right? In my opinion, okay, if North Korea wanted to kill us, they had a dozen reasons since the Korean War. They would have done it already. If they had the capability to actually launch an attack on America, they would have done it before, right? Like, nothing we're doing right now is the fact that we're sitting on the 38th parallel. Like, the fact that we've got troops there doesn't piss them off enough to attack, but this
Wait
movie
a minute.
does.
You're
Like,
pissed off by this, but 12 seasons of MASH didn't piss you off?
yeah, like
Come on, seriously? We want that Ellen Alda dead, or we're going to kill your country.
and that is what. Honestly, right? Like, if North Korea could have attacked, the minute North Korea has the capability to attack America, they're gonna do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they want to. They've wanted to for a really long time. Or should I say, they have the capability and the actual, they feel they may have the capability. Will they win? No, they won't. But that's the thing. This movie is not going to. It's not like we were super buddy with North Korea. And
In the first place, no.
it
we
would be
weren't.
different. Not a lot different, but it would be different if something like this happened to China, right? And China said, "Look, we're not happy about this," because China's a legitimate threat, right? Like, we're friends with China, but if China decided they wanted to fuck shit up, China could fuck shit up.
China can build an army within a day because of how many people are dedicated and how big they are. If they
Exactly.
needed an army, all they have to say is sign up now, you're enlisted, and they
Uh-huh.
can do that, and they can go to war whenever they want to.
And
But
so
they
can
don't.
They don't
North
need
Koreans.
armies, though.
Yeah.
China and Korea, if they were all to team up and hit us technologically, we
Yeah.
would be blue, screwed, and tattooed.
Yeah.
Right.
And that is, more than any physical war, that scares me the most, because those boys know their shit. And
Uh-huh.
if they actually sat down and worked it out, they could take this country down in the space of an hour. And you know what? When people go after the hackers in this country, I said, if the hackers in this country really, really want to impress me, go after all these other countries. You'll be frickin' heroes up there with the military.
Yep. And you know what?
I
And
guarantee it.
that's legitimate, is to say that we really should fear some of these Asian superpowers for their technical capabilities, their ability to, like, hack our computer systems. That doesn't directly relate to blowing up movie theaters. It doesn't.
No.
And that's the thing, is what are we really, is Sony really afraid about a movie theater blowing up, or is there something else that they're afraid that these people have on them that they don't want to get leaked? And in which case, what is that is worth not only the profits they were going to make off the interview, but the money they already spent to produce it? This movie is done. It's sitting on the shelf, ready to go. Sony, this is not done out of the kindness of their hearts, because they lost a lot of money, both potential and actual capital, by pulling this out.
Well, Sony is not doing well with money at all.
Not at all,
I mean,
no.
their biggest thing they got going for them right now is the PlayStation 4 and their video games. That's the best thing they got. Other than that, they're not doing so hot, man.
So
Sony is in deep shit right now after this, and and to a lesser extent, the mishandling of the whole Spider-Man thing. I mean, they are in rough waters right now.
They
Their
need,
decisions over the next week or two are going to sink or kill that entire company.
if Sony was smart, they would sell Spider-Man back to Marvel. Let them throw him into the Civil War movie with Captain America. Let them take the crossovers. Because right now, they're in no position, really, to be like, no, we're going to hold on to him. They can't afford it. They can't necessarily
not if they
afford
keep
to do
making
it.
shitty movies like The Amazing Spider-Man 2. You know what? That transitions into our last topic, is what were your favorite and least favorite movies and games of this year? Because I've got at least 3 in my head.
Go ahead.
All right. I want to start least favorite, because I feel like that transition. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was awful. That was such a bad movie. That was so shit. It just
My official Facebook review was one line, and it said, over 50 years of material to draw from, and that's what they gave us.
Yeah, and you know what? Okay, so here was my biggest problem with the Amazing Spider-Man 2, and I promise you I got 2 more movies that make this bottom list, so I want to get to those. So I'll be brief. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 would have been a less than average Spider-Man movie had they cut out the Rhino bits, which is all of 30 seconds of the movie, and the Green Goblin part, right? If they would have just
Rhino.
if they would have focused on the Electro story, made that character arc more interesting, the movie still sucked. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of problems with it, but it would have scored maybe a 6 out of 10 on my radar, right? But
Right.
Do
then
you think maybe if they had stuck to one of the 17 plots in the movie, it would have worked?
yes, that's it.
Absolutely.
Are you crazy?
Yeah. Well, but here's the thing. The previous Spider-Man movies, the Tobey Maguire movies, which I'll admit were not fantastic, but in my opinion were better than the Amazing Spider-Man reboot. they focused on a lot of different characters, a lot of different villains, but everyone kind of had a part to play in the movie. In the third movie, which I know is a bad one to draw from, is a good example. But Venom and Sandman were both in it, but they both kind of had Eddie Brock was in the movie. He didn't become Venom till later, but we all knew that's where it was going. His entire character was introduced to become Venom. In The Amazing Spider-Man 2, the problem is they try to do a similar thing with Harry Osborn in becoming the Green Goblin, except it doesn't make sense.
No,
it
no,
doesn't make sense. He is, and okay, spoilers for The Amazing Spider-Man 2, but I promise you, if you haven't seen it already, you just want to listen to these spoilers so you don't have to watch that piece of shit movie. So, Harry Osborn, he's got this disease that turns him green for some reason because goblins, that his dad had, that kills his dad, and so he tries to come up with a cure for it. So this disease that's killing him, he tries to come up with a cure for it, which is apparently, maybe, possibly, Spider-Man's blood, or the venom from the spiders that he has, right? So he tries to get Spider-Man's blood. Spider-Man says no. He breaks a liquor bottle. He finally finds out that he can get that he's got the venom in his basement of his own company. Tries to get that, and the bald dude on the board of directors says no, and basically tries to kill him. So he injects him with the venom blood, or with the spider blood, which, oh, surprise, surprise, like everyone smarter than you shit-faced kid has been telling you this whole movie, kills you! It kills him. So he gets on to the Green Goblin suit, and then the first thing he does after discovering new life is says, man, I really want to kill Spider-Man.
Right.
Yeah.
And
it makes no sense.
Which, okay, that makes no sense, but I'll admit, sometimes superhero movies don't make sense. So then, what happens? We get our big fight at the end with Electro, which was really disappointing, but I mean, it was there, and you're like, oh yeah, movie's over, good stuff. And then the Green Goblin comes in, it was like, oh yeah, we've completely forgotten about the Green Goblin. Shit, alright, Green Goblin, stand over there, and we're gonna shoot this really quick. The sun's going down, so we gotta get this in. This is the last day we have this set. And it was literally like they cast the dude as the Green Goblin, forgot he was in the movie, and then at the last bit, one of the writers, the writing intern on break, wrote this on a napkin and then threw it out there like that was the end of the movie. And then, so that sucks because Green Goblin is literally in and then killed faster, or not killed, but defeated, completely pointlessly, except to kill Gwen Stacy. And, and then Rhino is literally in the first 30 seconds where he in the throwaway car chase scene at the beginning of the Spider-Man movie, and in the last 30 seconds where he tries to shoot some kid. And then they literally had the audacity to put Rhino on the box and say he's in the movie.
That upset me the most. I was disappointed in the whole Electro thing, but the fact that they blew off Rhino, who, granted, he's a one-dimensional character, but still, I mean,
yeah.
At least finish the frickin' fight before the credits.
Right. And, honestly, it is one of those things where, when Rhino came up and they were doing the fight, I was sitting in the theater and I was like, are you kidding me? We're going to do another one? You have just, you've just totally, teased me with the one fight that sucked. The other fight was a little bit better, but I didn't want it anyway because I was ready to go home. I have to pee. And now you're going to do this third fight, seemingly months later for no reason? But, okay, my big problem with that movie is they are trying to do what Marvel took 5 to 7 years to do. They tried to do it in one movie. Marvel said, we want to do an Avengers movie. Here's an Iron Man movie. Here's a Thor movie. Here's a Hulk movie. Here's a Captain America movie. Everyone who was anyone knew that the Avengers movie was coming out the minute Iron Man came out. We knew it was coming. But Marvel took their time to build the characters, build the universe. You watch a Marvel movie, it doesn't matter what you watch. You watch Captain America 2, you know you're in the same universe as Iron Man. You know you're in the same universe as Thor. It has nothing to do with characters. They just are that intertwined. I believe that this is one big universe. And now everyone else who has a superhero IP to their name goes and says, we could do that too, and then crams everyone into one movie so that their next movie can be, what is it? The Fiendish Five? Is that the Spider-Man, or did I get my wrong? Is it the wrong F?
Sinister Six.
Oh, the Sinister
Yeah.
Six. The Fiendish Five is something else. That's
Yeah.
that's Sly Cooper. The, the Sinister Six. Yeah, they want to get which, by the way, the Sinister Six. Like, there have been so many different people in the Sinister Six. Like, Sandman was the leader of almost every single comic book Sinister Six, and he's not anywhere to be found. Like,
I'll debate that. It was Doc Ock.
Yeah.
okay, yep, Doc Ock
Doc
too.
Ock is primarily the front man for the Sinister Six of the whole thing.
Yep, and he is. Well, he will be in the Sinister Six in this one because they show us all of them. But he'll be probably a side character, I would imagine. Honestly, I don't know if they're gonna make it that far. I'm not interested in.
I don't think they're gonna make the Sinister Six movie. I really don't.
I don't think that it's gonna be profitable long enough for them. It would take a lot for me to go see the Amazing Spider-Man 3.
The Spider-Man series was enough of a debacle at the moment before the whole Sony shitstorm started.
Yes.
So I think Spider-Man is pretty much, I agree with John. I think they're going to say, hey, Marvel, you know what? Will you take this hot potato off our hands? And you know what? Good luck. Great.
Yeah.
Take it. Just, we have bigger fish to fry.
And Spider-Man's one of my favorites, so I hope they do that. I want to move on, though. My next movie that's going to make my worst of 2014 list is Lucy. Did anyone see Lucy?
I did not.
No.
Sean, did you see
But
Lucy?
that was with Scarlett
No.
Johansson.
Okay.
And I wanted to see it.
Yeah, okay. Well, I wanted to see it too because basically what I saw was Scarlett Johansson, who's hot, and she was going to, get superpowers that are not based in real science, but, okay, whatever. And then she was going to kick some ass, and that was going to be cool. Let me explain to you what Lucy was. It was a movie that was trying to win an Oscar because it really wanted to be super artsy, right? You sit down and you watch Lucy, and it starts with like an animal, and they're talking about evolution, and there's like a cheetah chasing some stuff, but here's the thing: it's basically a movie about evolution, right? And the next phase of humanity's existence. Except the bit about us only using 10% of our brain. Oh, I don't know. The entire plot of your movie that is supposed to somehow link us to the future is not based in real science at all. And like when I went into it, I remember like Reddit people were getting mad. They were like, "That's not even real," and I was like, "Guys, come on! It's a science fiction action-y flick movie. Batman can't really get shot and then stand back up and fight crime. Batman can't take on 30 guys. Well, Batman can, but a real person can't take on 30 guys at once. That doesn't happen." But my problem with Lucy was it was not a fun, cheesy action flick. It really thought it was going to win an Oscar. It was written to be a very artistic movie. And
am I wrong that it was directed by Luc Besson, who did the Fifth Element with Bruce Willis?
Let's
I
find out.
want to say it was Luc Besson who did that movie, and I'm a big fan of his.
Luc Besson, it was him.
Because he was very big about female empowerment in his movies, female heroines.
And it was it was just it was stereotypical in a in a lot of ways, but it was one of those movies that it wanted to be more than it could achieve. It didn't end up being what it was. The final movie that I want to put on my bottom list is Delivery Man, which is a movie I'm assuming no one saw.
Actually, no, I did see that. That's the one with what's his name? Fred? Not Fred.
I'm on IMDb right now. Let's see.
I cannot.
Vince Vaughn and Chris Pratt.
Yeah, I have to disagree with you. I actually really like that movie. I cried in that movie, dude.
I
No
disagree
joke.
completely.
Okay, why did you not like it?
I thought that Delivery Man was a movie that was incredibly poorly written, based on a stupid concept, and just never really was. Like the beginning of the movie, there are like 6 different plot threads that are both introduced and dropped at the exact same time. Like a lot of the stuff they talk about in that movie never comes to fruition. Like things that are introduced that are supposed to be major plot threads that you think would be because they're introduced in such a way are throwaway jokes. He's growing weed to pay for his apartment. That could be kind of funny, but that's the only time they ever mention it. Like he throws away his hydroponics lab later on.
Yeah.
And that's like the conclusion to this. Also, it's based on something. He is a sperm donor that is given. The whole movie is about this dude jacking off a lot because he needs money, And then he has kids, and he then goes and like meets his kids and has another kid, and they all have like a giant like Comic-Con of all of his kids.
Of all those kids getting together, yeah.
That all of his kids are of like varying different ages. Like,
I mean, I don't know. I like the fact that he tried to get back into their lives and tried to help them out. And there was like certain events where like somebody needed a helping hand, and he stepped up and said, "Hey, I'll do this," even though they didn't know who he was. And I think the thing that really got me the most was the kid that was in the wheelchair.
right?
Seeing that kid in the movie, I mean, I think that's what made that movie for me. Really, was just seeing that kid and him. Talking to him and taking him with his family and showing him that, hey, I'm here for you. I think that's one of the reasons why I really liked it.
Sean, did you see it?
No, I didn't. But I can just say it could be worse. It could have been made by Adam Sandler.
That's true. It
Yes.
really does. It does scream Adam Sandler to me. Okay. So top movies of the year. And I'm sure that we'll get a chance to talk about these because I imagine they're going to be on a lot of people's list. Guardians of the Galaxy has to make
Guardians
it
of
for
the
me.
Galaxy.
Guardians
Oh,
was
yeah.
good. And you're going to have to forgive me for not doing my research, but Captain America 2 came out 2014.
Yeah.
Captain America 2 makes
That
my
came out
list.
this year.
Easily makes
That's
my
great.
list. And I'm going to break the mold a little bit on this one because this movie was not critically well received, but I think my favorite movie of 2014 was The Judge with Robert Downey Jr.
I did not see that.
Sean,
didn't
did you see The
anything,
Judge?
but
Okay. The Judge, a lot of people, the critics, did not like it. It was received critically not well. A lot of critics said that it was very cliche, but Robert Downey Jr. can act. And let me tell you what, his acting was phenomenal. I thought it was the only movie I was sitting in the theater. My girlfriend and I went and saw it on a whim. And the credits rolled, and I just sat there because I was still digesting. There's a lot of imagery, a lot of symbolism, a lot of parallel plot points that connect. I thought that it was masterfully written, and I remember when the movie was over, I just sat there and I just stared at the screen because I was still I was. And I know that sounds like a glowing endorsement for the movie that I'm like getting paid by them or something, but I was really captivated by that, and so was she. And I remember we sat back in my car, and both of us like almost at the same time were just like, that was fucking good. Like I would really encourage you to go see it despite the reviews.
I would venture to say that most people have forgotten that Robert Downey Jr. won an Oscar before he went to prison.
Yeah, and also forgot that he went to prison, but we'll remember the Oscar.
He won a freaking Oscar. He was amazing then, and he had his bad period. I think he came back even better after the prison period.
Yeah.
It's like people are just, he's doing this, he's doing Sherlock Holmes, and it's like, how can you not say you can't watch a Robert Downey performance and not be entertained?
Yeah, he is, and what was amazing to me was he plays his character is very it's hard for me to disassociate Robert Downey Jr. with Tony Stark because he does such a good Tony Stark, but he starts and it was cool to me because his character in The Judge starts off very Tony Starkish, very arrogant, very full of himself, full of confidence and successful. But unlike Tony Stark, where that's kind of his character, and even though there's character development, he always kind of stays that way. In The Judge, he really develops and grows into a much more sympathetic character, and out of some kind of traumatic stuff. And it is really interesting because you get to see him play a very Tony Stark-esque character, but then transition into something that's much more dramatic. Great movie. Definitely recommend it.
Sure.
And then I want to touch.
I would definitely recommend the Lego Movie. That was one of my best movies.
The Lego Movie should have made my list.
So good.
So good. Very good. Sean, what do you think about the Lego Movie?
We were going to take my niece to see that, and I was like, okay, children's movie. And I was a big Lego fan when I was a kid, so when this movie started, I got so sucked in that at the end of the movie, I was like, fuck yeah, I'm a master builder too.
Right?
Yeah. That was such a feel-good movie that I was just so overwhelmed. I can't wait for the next one.
It was so good. I mean, you went in, like you said, expecting it just to be another kid's movie. You're like, all right, it'll be cute in some parts. But when you walked out of there, you're like, dude, this was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm going to break the mold here, and I hate to even say this. I don't even really like Legos. and I really liked that movie.
I love Legos.
And you know what? My problem is they frustrate me. It's not that I don't like the concept. It's that I was always impatient as a kid. Like I didn't want to sit down and build something. I wanted to just have the toy, and building them for whatever reason wasn't entertaining enough for me. But I loved it. Was weird that they wrote a movie that was both good and it wasn't just a good movie done with Legos. It was a Lego movie. I mean, the differences between people who build Legos as models and then glue them together, and then the people that freeform and create and use these Legos to combine. That was the entire purpose of the movie, and it's also the entire purpose of Legos. Like just as a toy. And
when I was a kid, there were no specialty kits.
Right.
You had a box of Legos, you had wheels, you had moving parts and stuff, but you had to come up with stuff. One of the best things I ever made out of my Lego kit was the original Battlestar Galactica, and I had to do that from what I was looking at.
Yeah.
And I had to do it myself. That's why I identified so huge with the movie. It was so wonderful.
Yep. John, what else is on your top movies list?
Let's see. Guardians, Captain America, Lego Movie. I really enjoyed Mockingjay. Was the second movie of the Hunger Games. I liked it due to the fact I have read all the books. But even though I've read all these books, I went into the movie and there were still parts in there where I was like holding my breath and like going, "Oh my gosh!" And it was very captivating to me. I really enjoyed it.
I have not seen it, so I cannot comment. What were your worst movies of 2014?
The only worst movie I want to add is The Legend of Hercules. Did anybody see this? Not the one with The Rock.
No.
I did not. I knew well enough to avoid that.
Because it was the beginning of 2014, and I wanted an action-packed movie. I wanted to see something that was just going to blow me off the charts. So I went to the theaters. I paid my $7 or $8 to go see this, and I was let down horribly. It was a big flop. It wasn't anything I wanted. I mean, and the action was just poorly done. I don't know. It wasn't good.
All right, Sean, what do you got? I don't care where you start.
I'm going to break the rules. I'm going to forego any worst movies of the year because every year has bad movies, and I can't really figure one out. But I will say unequivocally, the number one movie of the year, and not just because of the money it made or the success, but an inspirational movie that won on every level was Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
It was so good.
That worked on so many levels because, number one, we had gotten to the point where people were saying, yeah, Marvel films, hero, bad guy, yada, yada, yada. Guardians of the Galaxy took something out of the obscure pile and turned it into an insane hit that nobody expected.
And to me,
especially DC, and in the length that we do these shows, I will rip on DC's lack of skill when it comes to making movies, but that's another day. But it worked on so many levels. Number one, it made stars of Chris Pratt. I feel so good for Chris Pratt. He did such a great job playing the Nathan Fillion in Firefly. He played Harrison Ford as Han Solo. Those are the most lovable kind of characters that people can connect with in a movie, is the lovable character who knows what to do, but like Indiana Jones, the situation doesn't exactly turn his way all the time.
Right.
And I think that works for all the other characters. You had Rocket, you had, and Dave Bautista as Drax. I feel great for him because going from pro wrestling to a movie career is not easy.
Oh, no.
No.
And I thought he did a fantastic job with that. Also, excuse me, is director James Gunn, who I have been familiar with since his days back in Troma Pictures. Who knew that a guy that worked for the company that made The Toxic Avenger and Class of Nukem High would make the highest grossing movie of the year? And he has such a respect for the genre and comic books and characters in general, and he put a lot of humor into it, and I think it's why it worked. I think it was a big smack upside the head for a lot of the internet fan community, because when they saw the first trailer and goes, what's the old song doing on there? Is that the whole soundtrack had meaning to the plot.
Yep.
It had meaning to the characters, and it worked. Everybody walked out of that movie saying, wow, because if there's one movie everybody likes, it's about a group of ragtag people thrown together to do good. And how can you not win with a formula like that?
Right.
And, to me, and I mentioned this when we had talked about Guardians, the three of us talked about Guardians before. Guardians of the Galaxy proved that Marvel can make movies, not that they need not that they've been successful because they have a good superhero license behind them. Marvel was not successful because they had Iron Man and they could make a decent movie, but Iron Man, sold at the box office. No one cared about Iron Man before they made Iron Man, and no one cared about Guardians of the Galaxy before they made Guardians of the Galaxy. Marvel can make movies, and I think that was the biggest takeaway.
And what I really took away from the movie was the fact that until then, your Marvel universe was grounded on Earth. There were the heroes, and I'll throw in Captain America: Winter Soldier here. That was when was the last time you saw a really good enemy threat like Hydra? I mean, when I was watching Winter Soldier, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
How are the bad guys? I mean, S.H.I.E.L.D. was there to back up the Marvel heroes, and now S.H.I.E.L.D.'s gone. What the hell's going to happen,
Right.
So when Guardians of the Galaxy, it was like, there's the head of a Celestial that's turned into a giant, like Mos Eisley. Here's this, here's that. And it truly struck me that Marvel has expanded. They took Earth and the Marvel Universe and blew it up.
Yep.
Now anything goes, and especially with the appearance of Howard the Duck, Marvel said to every other movie company, they said, this is how far we're willing to go with our universe.
Yeah.
And especially with Howard the Duck, because no one, and I hate to think back to the George Lucas version, but with this Howard the Duck, Marvel said, hey, we're going all in. You end up and you're in. But Guardians of the Galaxy was the movie of the year in every sense of the story.
And what's amazing is Marvel had been planning Guardians of the Galaxy for a long, long time, and it still maintained that formula that I mentioned earlier. You watched Guardians of the Galaxy, and even though it was in space and didn't ever basically go to Earth outside of the first minute and a half, you still knew you were in the same universe. And a big part of that was the connection that they had drawn at the end of Thor 2 and a couple of the other movies. But it was the art style and the technology and the aesthetics, and it was very clearly still the Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And that is when, when people said, oh, okay, Avengers, all these other movies, they're just, they're making it up as they go. Oh, no. Marvel has the ultimate plan. Everything they're doing is building. Even when you think as far as Infinity War Chapter 1 and 2, they have this whole thing mapped out. So when, again, and not ripping on DC, their whole, well, here's our line of movies through the next 4 years looks really, really weak.
Yep, and it's because DC has constant, and John, I know you want to jump in here, so I'll give you a chance, just a sec. But DC has constantly, my biggest problem with DC is every time you watch a DC movie, I don't even know I'm in the same world. Are we in the same universe? Do these characters know each other? Do they exist independently? And DC keeps trying to go, oh, we're going to make our Justice League movie, but they don't ever establish a world, and that's what Marvel did. Outside of the characters, Marvel has a world. They've got a universe, and now all they need to do is drop people into it and make stories. DC is making worlds around characters, and that doesn't work when you want to have a mashup of a bunch of characters. If you want to have your Batman versus Superman movie, you need to show me in both your Batman and your Superman movie that it is possible for these heroes to exist in the same place. Don't make a world around Batman, a world around Superman, and then try to throw them together because I'm not going to buy it.
Right.
So, John, what did you think about Guardians?
Oh, I loved it. It was a great all-around feel-good movie. I didn't know much about the Guardians before going into the movie, and after leaving the theaters, I wanted to know more. I wanted to know where their origins were from. Where did these characters all come from? I mean, where does a tree and a raccoon actually get together before the Guardians?
Oh yeah.
Right.
And my girlfriend, she wasn't that big into superheroes, but she even went into the movie, and she's like, that was great. That was awesome. I really enjoyed it. And I mean, they did such a good job of taking this movie and throwing some oldies in there, along with a good amount of story and action to really bring you back and wanting for more.
Yeah. Yep. I agree that was definitely one of the best movies of the year. All right.
Yeah.
I think we should save the top games of the year for a future episode because we're running about an hour and a half here. I know we want to stick it to about an hour.
I figured that would happen. We are a chatty bunch.
Yeah, no, I figured we'd go long, but I realized when we were ticking away at about 50 minutes and I started my rant on Amazing Spider-Man 2, I was like, this isn't gonna, we can't go round table again with my least favorite games. So, anyway, I do want to broach that topic. Have we decided on a format? I think we'll do that after we go off the air. We'll talk about what we want our publishing schedule to be. So-called.
Absolutely.
So.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. So anyway, that was the first episode of whatever we're going to end up calling this podcast. We'll decide that off the air too. Yeah. Any closing thoughts?
Mary.
In the background, is that me or somebody else?
Might be John.
Might be me.
Yeah. So
Sorry.
anyway, that's all right. We're picking it up at the end. This is definitely a little bit indie. But yeah, if we get a bit of a following here on people watching this, we'll definitely be upping our production values as things go. But even if we don't, I enjoy hanging out with you guys and talking. So we'll probably keep this up for a while. So, all right. Well, that was the first episode. So see you guys later.
All right.
Night, everybody.